You wake up early on a Saturday. The house is silent. No one needs you right now. And suddenly, your chest tightens. You grab your phone, scroll through the feed without seeing anything, turn on the TV just to hear voices. Anything to fill the void. 10 in the morning and you're already thinking about leaving, making up an errand, meeting someone. Any excuse not to be alone there, because staying home hurts. The silence screams. The thoughts attack. And you realize the house isn't the problem. You've already tried rearranging the furniture, buying plants, making to-do lists, but nothing changes the feeling. The truth is, you're not afraid of the house. You're afraid of who you become when you stop, when the noise ceases, when no one is watching. Because without the distraction, without the movement, without the voices, what's left? Who are you when you're not performing for anyone? What if the answer is nothing? This has a name. Napoleon Hill would call it absence of definite purpose, a life without clear mission, a mind without burning objective. And when the mind has nowhere to focus, it turns against you. It devours itself. It gets lost. Because idleness isn't rest. It's silent despair. You weren't born this way. There was a time when being alone was freedom. You played, dreamed, created entire worlds in your head. But something changed. Maybe it was the first time someone said you were too quiet, or antisocial, or that you needed to get out more. And you learned. You learned that being alone was weird, that silence was emptiness, that being always busy meant being okay. So you started running, filling every second, avoiding any moment of pause, because stopping meant facing what you were running from. But running from what exactly? From the question you never wanted to answer. What do I exist for? What really matters in my life? Who am I without the distractions? Because without a purpose to guide you, all solitude becomes torment. Every pause becomes crisis. And home, which should be refuge, becomes prison. Hill said the mind needs a dominant objective, something that organizes your thoughts, that directs your energy, that justifies your existence. Without it, you live at the mercy of circumstances, reacting to the world, never creating, never building anything that's truly yours. And that's why you run, not from home, but from the naked truth that silence reveals. You're living on autopilot, following scripts you didn't write, chasing goals you didn't choose, filling the void with noise. Because building purpose hurts more than distracting the pain. You look around and see people who seem to have it all figured out. They stay home and seem happy. They read books, cook, meditate, create, and you wonder, what's wrong with me? But there's nothing wrong. You just haven't discovered yet why you're here. And until you do, you'll keep running. You thought you were living, but you were just reacting. You thought having a full schedule was having a full life. You thought being needed was being loved. You thought movement was progress. You thought noise was company, but it wasn't. It was just escape disguised as productivity. You built an identity around the hustle. I'm a doer. I need people. I can't stop. And everyone applauded. They called you sociable, lively, available. But no one asked, are you okay when you're alone? And you never answered, because you knew the truth. The truth is you replaced purpose with approval. You traded peace for external validation. You filled yourself with people so you wouldn't hear the internal silence. And you called it living intensely. But intensity without direction is just chaos. It's a speeding car with no destination. You move a lot, but you don't get anywhere. You look back and see years of movement, parties, events, meetings, trips, so many photos, so many stories. But when you stop to feel, there's nothing solid, nothing that's genuinely yours, nothing that sustains you when the world slows down, because you built a life around others, not inside yourself. And the worst part, you knew. You always knew. In the intervals between one outing and another, on Sunday afternoons when the anxiety hit, in the early mornings when you woke up empty, even surrounded by people, you knew something was wrong. But it was easier to ignore than to face it, because facing it meant admitting, I don't know who I am without the noise. I don't know what I truly want. I don't know why I'm here. And these questions scare you, because the answer requires reconstruction. It requires stopping everything and starting from zero. It requires intentional solitude, and you've always run from that, so you continued, accepting every invitation, saying yes to everything, emptying yourself to be present in others' lives, because deep down you thought purpose would come from outside, that someone would one day say, "This is what you came to do," but no one said it, and you remained lost, just too busy to notice. If you made it this far, it's because something in this message touched you deeply, and I need to tell you, you're not alone in this. Thousands of people live this same pain, this same escape, this same emptiness disguised as a full schedule. This channel exists for this, to translate what you feel, name what you live, and show the way back to yourself. So click the button right now and subscribe, because every video here is a piece of the puzzle of your soul. But God never called you to live like this. He never asked you to lose yourself in the noise, to empty yourself to please others, to build a life without foundation. He created you with purpose, and that purpose isn't out there. It's inside you, waiting to be discovered in the silence. Proverbs 14:30 says, "A heart at peace gives life to the body." Peace. Not hustle, not constant movement, not external approval. Peace. That inner stillness that sustains you. And that peace only comes when you stop running and start listening. God speaks in silence, not in the noise of the party, not in the rush of the schedule, not in the voices telling you who you should be. He speaks when you finally sit down, breathe, and allow the emptiness to be filled by His presence, not your distractions. You think the restlessness is a sign that something's wrong with you, but it's not. It's God calling you back, showing you that you were made for more than reacting to life. You were made to create, to build, to live with intention, not on autopilot. And that's scary, because it means changing everything. It means saying no to things you've always said yes to. It means choosing productive solitude over empty company. It means trusting that God has a better plan than the distraction you created. But that's exactly where transformation begins. Psalm 37:7 says, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him." Being still isn't running away. It's trusting. It's stopping trying to fill the void alone and letting God show you what really matters. Because when you finally quiet down, you realize what you called emptiness was sacred space waiting to be filled with the purpose God always had for you. So what do you do now? How do you break this cycle of escape? How do you learn to stay home without feeling like you're dying inside? The answer isn't magic. It's practical. It's intentional. And it starts with a simple decision. Stop avoiding the silence. First action. Set aside 15 minutes a day to be alone, with nothing. No phone, no TV, no music, just you and your thoughts. It will hurt at first. Your mind will scream, will attack you, will try to convince you to quit, but resist, because it's precisely in that discomfort that healing begins. Napoleon Hill said the mind needs to be trained, not just occupied. And training the mind means teaching it to function without constant external stimuli. It means regaining control over your own thoughts. It means learning to be with yourself without panicking. In those 15 minutes, don't try to produce anything. Don't force meditation, prayer, or deep insight. Just sit, breathe, observe what comes up. If sadness comes, let it come. If fear comes, let it come. If emptiness comes, let it come. Because you spent so long running from these emotions that they accumulated. They became monsters in your head. But when you finally look at them head on, you realize they won't destroy you. They just wanted to be seen, felt, processed. And as you do this day after day, something changes. Silence stops being the enemy and becomes an ally. Home stops being a prison and becomes a sanctuary. And you discover that you always had everything you needed inside you. You were just too busy to notice. This isn't a religious practice. It's psychological. It's spiritual. It's human. It's you coming back home, not the house of bricks, but the home of your own soul. And when you learn to inhabit yourself, everything changes. Now, if you got distracted, come back here with me. Pay attention to this because it's the most important part of everything I've told you so far. Second action. Write your personal mission, not a career plan, not a list of goals, but a clear statement of why you exist. A sentence that organizes your entire life around something greater than distraction. Napoleon Hill called this definite purpose, and without it, you'll always drift. Grab a paper, sit in silence, and ask yourself, if my life had a greater meaning, what would it be? What do I want to leave in the world when I'm gone? What do I want to be remembered for? What really matters to me when I remove all the noise? At first, you'll freeze. You'll want to run again. You'll think you don't know the answer, but persist, because the answer is there. It always has been. You just never stopped long enough to hear it. And when it comes, write it down. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be poetic. It just has to be true. Something like, my purpose is to help people find peace in the midst of chaos. Or, my purpose is to create beauty where there's pain. Or, my purpose is to live with integrity and inspire others to do the same. When you have this written down, everything changes. Because now you have a filter. Every time someone invites you to something, you ask, does this serve my purpose or is it just distraction? Every time anxiety hits, you remember, I have a mission greater than this momentary discomfort. Every time emptiness comes, you know, this space exists for me to build something meaningful, not to fill with just anything. And then, staying home stops being torture. It becomes a laboratory. It becomes sacred space where you plan, create, reflect, build. You're no longer running from solitude. You're using it as fuel to accomplish what God placed in your heart. Proverbs 16:3 says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans. When you align your life with a divine purpose, the restlessness stops, because you're no longer reacting. You're creating. You're no longer lost. You're walking. For the first time, you understand, home was never the problem. Silence was never the enemy. You just needed a reason to be there, and now you have one. You wake up early on a Saturday. The house is silent. No one needs you right now. And this time, your chest doesn't tighten. You breathe deeply, feel the peace in the air, make coffee slowly, and for the first time in a long time, you don't want to run, because you understood. Home was never a prison. It was a temple. Silence was never emptiness. It was God waiting for you to stop screaming so He could speak. You look around and see the same space, the same walls, the same furniture, but something changed. You changed, because now you know who you are when you're alone. You have a purpose, a mission, a reason to exist that doesn't depend on approval, full schedules, external noise, and that sets you free. Because for the first time, you're not reacting to life, you're creating it. Napoleon Hill was right. The mind needs a dominant objective, and God always knew that. He created you with purpose, but you needed to stop running to discover what it was. Proverbs 14:30 says, a heart at peace gives life to the body, and you finally understand what that means. Peace isn't absence of movement, it's presence of purpose. It's knowing why you're here, even when the world stops. You're no longer afraid of silence, because it doesn't reveal emptiness, it reveals truth. And the truth is, you were always enough. You always had everything you needed. You were just too busy to notice. So you sit down, open the notebook where you wrote your mission, read it again, and smile, because now you know. The restlessness wasn't a sign that something was wrong. It was God calling you back home, not the house of bricks, but the home of your own soul. And when you inhabit yourself, everything transforms. The right people appear. The right opportunities arise. The right life is built, because you're no longer lost in the noise. You're rooted in purpose. You were afraid of being alone. Now you understand you never were. God was always there, in the silence, waiting. And when you finally stopped running, He showed you who you really are, and why you're here. If this message made sense to you, subscribe to our channel. Here, every story reveals why you suffer, and what God is teaching you through it. Psychology to understand yourself, spirituality to understand the why. For you who made it to the end of this video, write in the comments, I found my purpose, and God will honor that declaration. He will show you day after day why you're here, and the restlessness that consumed you will transform into peace that sustains. Declare it now.